Hello, everyone, and welcome in to another week of our psychoeducation group for couples. Really glad you've joined us here. Sorry about hopping on a little bit late here, having some technical difficulties here just a few minutes ago. We got it worked out, and we're here. So, again, appreciate you joining us on a wonderful Friday. Hope you have a great weekend. And if you're watching this some other time, hope you're having a great week wherever you are in your week. But hey, really do appreciate you being here. We're going to do this week, next week, and then we're going to wrap it up the following week, which would be August the 16th. That will be kind of a overview of all we've gone over, and we'll finish up the group that way. So today we have a very important topic, and that is trust and commitment within a romantic relationship. And let me just say some general things before we get into the slides. Trust and commitment are pillars of any relationship, but especially a romantic relationship. And I cannot express how important trust and commitment are to a relationship. If there is not trust and commitment, then the relationship will not last. It will not work. It's going to falter. It's going to fail. And so we have to have trust and commitment in the relationship, because if you don't, it just won't work. So we mentioned John Gottman many times in this couples group, and we're going to mention him a lot here today as well. But he does what's called the Sound Relationship House, and I don't have this on here for copyright purposes, but you can type that in and look at the Sound Relationship House. Basically, it's a house that he has developed, that kind of sums up all of his work on couples in his book, The 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. So it's a picture of this house, and it has these different levels, and the different levels of the house are different parts of a relationship, or different things that he says helps a relationship grow. And the walls of the house, not surprisingly, are trust and commitment. And the idea is, what's a house without walls, right? Imagine your house without walls right now, right? It wouldn't be much of a house at all. I mean, it could be broken into very easily. The wind and the wind and the rain would get to it very quickly. So a house would falter without walls, and so a relationship is going to falter without trust and commitment. It is the essential ingredients to any relationship. Without those things, all the other things we've really talked about don't really matter, because it's not going to work if you don't have trust and commitment. So these things are pillars of the relationship, and I've kind of saved these for the end just because they're so very important. Not exactly sure what we'll talk about next week, but we'll get there. But trust and commitment are so very important, and I wanted to highlight that here today. So let's dive into it by first talking about trust. There is some overlap between trust and commitment, but we'll see some differences here. So trust is the feeling of security and loyalty between you and your partner. It's built on a foundation of honesty, reliability, and consistency in words and actions. That's Dr. Sarah Schuetz, and I found that quote online somewhere. And I think this is a good, simple definition of trust, security and loyalty between you and your partner. And you see, it's built on a lot of different things: honesty, reliability, consistency, so on and so forth. So, really, a good definition here, because trust. I like the idea of loyalty there in this definition. Um, Trust, how I see it, is showing up for your partner, and that's what loyalty really is. That you're going to be there for your partner. Um, through it all, and you're going to show up for them, and they can lean on you, you can lean on them. Honesty obviously is connected to trust. Reliability, again, that they know you're going to be there for them. Consistency, always showing up. So these are some ideas of trust, with that feeling of security and loyalty in the relationship. And you can imagine, if that's not there, if there's no security and loyalty, if there's no honesty, reliability, consistency, the relationship's going to be really tough. I mean, it's going to be really hard to work through anything without those components. So that's what trust is. Now, here's another quote, and this is really where we want to stick. This is from Zach Brittle on Gottman.com. So John Gottman, we just talked about. Zach Brittle's a writer for that organization. He says this: the basis of trust is the idea of attunement. Consider the following acronym: attune, ATTUNE. A stands for awareness. Stands for turning toward. The other T stands for tolerance. U stands for understanding. N stands for non-defensive responding. And E stands for empathy. And that's what builds trust, the attunement. And again, we'll go over this here in just a second. But attunement is really the idea of being fully knowledgeable and aware of your couple and of what your uh, significant, what they're thinking, and basically being aware of that, how they're feeling, and also um, taking care of that, right? Taking care of those needs and those what they're feeling, right? That's what being attuned really means. I kind of think of like a almost like a tune up on your car, right? It's basically when you get a tune up on your car, you're giving it the attention that it needs, right? It needs attention and it needs the care to keep it running. And that's kind of what attunement is. It's giving the attention and giving the care to your significant other that they need. And so I want to kind of talk about this in trust as it relates to trust, um, because that's what Gottman says is really what trust is. The basis of trust is this attunement. So let's kind of talk about how this relates to trust. Um, so let me throw this thing off real quick so you can see the whole thing here. So awareness, number one, that's knowing your partner's world, being aware of your partner's world. What's going on with them? What's going on inside of them? That's what we're talking about with awareness. That's knowing your partner and knowing them well and being aware of what their days, what they're feeling, what they're going through. Secondly, it's turning toward. That's the T in attunement, turning toward. So this is responding to your partner's bids for connection and also reaching out for connection yourself. So, man, this one's so very important with trust, right? Well, let me take a step back and also say this with awareness. Like, if you don't know your partner, if they don't know you, right, that's gonna make trust deteriorate, right? Or that's gonna lead to a lack of trust because if you're not aware of what they're going through, if they're not aware of what you're going through, if you're not aware of what they're going through, then how can they know that they can rely on you? If you don't even know them, right? How can they rely on you? How can you rely on them? And then turning towards responding to your partner's bids for connection and reaching out for connection. John Gottman basically says that each day you make hundreds of bids of connection towards each other, and it's simple things. Basically, it's just drawing the attention of your partner, and we're either going to respond to that bid for connection or not. And so basically what happens is over time, if we don't respond to our partner's bids for connection, or if we respond to them negatively, um, then they're just going to stop asking. They're going to stop reaching out. They're going to stop. Um, in other words, they're going to lack that you're going to actually um, respond to them in a right way, right? So I'm kind of a mess right now. Maybe it's the technical difficulties that got me spinning. But let me give you an example. John Gottman gives an example in a video that I'd encourage you to watch. But he says that his wife was noticeably upset one night, and he had a choice right then to either meet her need and meet her where she was, or he said that he had a really good novel that he was finishing up, and he wanted to read about the who he thought the killer was in this novel. He could have just turned away from her and read his novel and said, "I will deal with that later," or he could have turned towards her and helped her and seen her in her struggle. And so he decided to put the novel down and to connect with his wife. Okay, so in that moment, he's building trust. He's turning towards her. He's building that trust. And it's in those little moments that he's building that trust. Now, if over time he decides to, for instance, if maybe that continued to come up, an example like that continued to come up where he wanted to read a novel or do something else, if that kept coming up and he decided to do those other things instead of connecting with his wife, that trust is going to deteriorate, right? And so that's just one example. We make bids for connection all the time, and we either are going to turn towards it or away from it. And if we continue to turn away from it, we're going to destroy that trust. We're going to erode that trust to the point where eventually you're going to say, why even reach out? Right? If they're just going to continue to reject my bids for a connection, why even reach out? And the trust is going to be non-existent. So the A is awareness. The T is turning towards. The second T is tolerance. All right. And this is tolerating, considering your partner's viewpoint. It's trying to see, okay, they have a viewpoint, and it's considering their view of what they're saying instead of being insistent on your view. Um, U is for understanding, and this kind of builds on that tolerance. It's not just tolerating their viewpoint; it's also now coming to understand where your partner's coming from, right? It's okay. They have another viewpoint, but let me try to understand where they're coming from. Let me try to really see it from their perspective. And then the N is for non-defensive responding. So this would be basically accept your responsibility and don't blame. Don't be defensive, right? When there's some things going on in the relationship, and maybe there's some arguing or there are some disagreements, it's really easy to respond defensively. It's really easy to get into this idea of it's your fault. It's only you. It's your problem. You did this back then or whatever, instead of taking the responsibility. And that erodes the trust because, right, if you continue to neglect any responsibility, or basically neglect taking responsibility, right, then right then there's going to be like this air of, okay, you have no problems in the relationship, and your significant other is going to start seeing, well, I can't trust that they're ever going to see their faults. I can't ever trust that they're going to see something that they need to work on, right? And so the trust is going to erode if you're constantly defensive. And so let me go back up too and say the tolerance and understanding, right? When you start considering your partner's viewpoint, understanding where they're coming from, you can understand how that would build trust, right? Because your partner will see, wow, they're trying to see it from my perspective. They're trying to consider my viewpoint, and that's going to make them feel really good. That's going to make them feel like you actually care, and it's going to build up that trust. And then the final thing is E, it's empathy. And that's a true understanding of what your partner is feeling. It's this ability to really see your partner's world, right? And to respond in an empathetic way where you truly feel for them, you truly feel what they're going through, and you're able to identify with that. And again, you can see how that would build trust, where your partner says, wow, they see where I'm coming from. I can go to them and they're going to see how I'm feeling, instead of seeing things from only their viewpoint, they're seeing it from my viewpoint, and they're really understanding where I'm coming from. That builds that trust. And so attunement, that is the idea of trust, being aware of your partner, turning towards your partner when they're making a bid for connection, tolerating their viewpoint, understanding their viewpoint, not responding defensively, and then having an empathetic understanding of your partner. That's going to build trust. That's going to help you build trust. Being attuned to your partner in their world is going to really help you build that trust. So it's time to start attuning to your partner. It's time to start giving them the attention and the care that they need, and seeing things from their point of view, responding to them when they make bids for connection, being aware of their world. That's going to build that trust up. That's going to let them know that they can rely on you. It's going to let them know that they can lean on you, that you're going to be there for them. And that's really what trust is. So trust is, again, my definition of it is showing up for each other and being there for each other consistently. And this is a great way to build that trust. So let me now show you, let me say this. I'm trying to kind of jumping ahead, but trust is built more in the small daily moments than in the greatest moments here and there, the greatest moments every now and then. Trust is built in those daily moments. Again, I'm talking about those bids for connection that you're making. Go back to that example with John Gottman, where he decided to put his novel away and he decided to be there for his wife when she was distressed. He saw the look on her face. She wanted him to connect with her, and he did. Instead of turning away and saying, "Well, I can have something better to do," he saw his wife and went towards her and helped her. And trust is being built in those little moments. We may not see those as grand moments. Trust is going to be built in those daily moments where you're turning towards each other, you're responding to each other, you're there for each other. Again, trust is showing up for each other in those daily moments. And it's more than just doing something here and there, like these big things that show your trust and commitment in the relationship. It's these little moments each day. So trust is as simple as showing up for your partner in the smallest of moments, those daily moments. That's what trust is, showing up for them when it really seems like insignificant. That's what's most important. So let me pull this back up here. The little bar at the bottom. There we go. So I found a good found a really good um, website that talked about building trust, and I've got to go back and now pull this off because I want you to see the source down there. This is from coupleslearn.com, and they talk about how to build trust. So I want to talk about this I think there's a couple of slides here, or that may be down the line actually. So how to build trust. Number one, set clear boundaries, right? Set clear boundaries. Now here's the thing. This kind of goes back to some of that attachment stuff we talked about in the first lesson we did here, the first session we had. Sometimes in a relationship, there are no boundaries, and two people are almost connected at the hip and they're never separated and they're constantly checking in on each other. There's no boundaries, right? We need to set clear boundaries even in a romantic relationship. We need to have these ability to have some independence and to not be down each other's throats. There needs to be some boundaries, and if there's not, then there's going to be a lack of trust, because what ends up happening is, again, those boundaries are crossed, and things like, all right, I'm going to constantly check your phone, I'm going to constantly be tracking you, and you can see how that's going to erode that trust. Because if one person in the couple is constantly tracking another, or constantly checking their phone, it's like, wait, what? Do you not trust me? You not trust me to act right, to do what, to keep this relationship alive, right? And so building trust can start by setting boundaries and saying, okay, we need to be reliant on one another, no doubt. And we need to spend quality time with each other regularly. But we also need some independence. We also need some time alone. We need some time without being down each other's throat. Okay. So set clear boundaries and say, you know what, listen, we're not going to check each other's phone all the time. We're not going to be tracking each other. We're going to trust each other. Right now, if there's some evidence for cheating or something like that, right, that's going to obviously break that trust and lead to probably some tracking and things like that in some cases. But sometimes that happens without any evidence, right? There's no evidence for cheating. There's no evidence for any, hurtful behavior, and people still are kind of, crossing boundaries. And so we need to set clear boundaries in a relationship and respect those boundaries, right? And even if, there's some things like, that you may do that your partner doesn't appreciate, and they say, hey, I don't appreciate you doing that, and you keep crossing that boundary, right, that's going to erode that trust too. Like, it's going to be something like, well, I can't ever trust him or her to not do this thing I've asked them not to do. So we've got to set clear boundaries and respect them. Number two, it's be reliable, right? I've talked about this already. We've mentioned this. It's being there for your partner, like, and keeping your word. Like, when you say you're going to do something, you're going to do it. You are going to come through. That's building that trust, right? And you can imagine if you say you're going to do something and you don't do it, or you say you're going to be somewhere and you don't show up, or again, like, partners are to be there for one another and you're constantly not showing up, right, that's going to kill that trust. So being reliable is really important. Being there for the important moments, showing up when they need you most, keeping your word, like that's really important to trust. Accountability. Again, this is taking responsibility for your actions and admitting when you're wrong, admitting your mistakes. That's being accountable. And that's needed for trust. You need that for trust because, again, if you're never taking responsibility, if you're never being taking accountability for your actions, then they can never trust that you're going to work on anything. They can never see that you're going to try to make things better because if you're never going to accept responsibility, well, it's never your fault, right? So you got to be able to see your faults and be able to admit that, and that builds that trust because it shows your significant other, wow, they want to work on this. They see their faults. They see how they can work. So accountability, create a safe space. Create a space for you and your partner where it's just you, where you can feel completely safe, where you know that they are not going to talk about your stuff to other people and you're not going to talk about their stuff. I'm talking about like deep stuff. We're talking about confidentiality here, where there are some things that couples talk about that they need to talk about that's not shared with anybody else. There's some things couples need to do, right? That they don't do with anybody else, particularly sex, right? We need to have a space where it's just you and your significant other, where they know they can count on you to not share these things with other people and not share your deep things. You have deep conversations, and it's just going to be between you and them, right? And I think about, like me and my wife, like we have things that we talk about, and we would not talk about these things with other people, right? We would not share these things with other people, and we kind of have this understanding, like that's just how it is, right? Like we don't even have to say. Sometimes we do, but we don't even have to say most of the time, hey, don't tell somebody else this, because we just have this understanding that, hey, this is between us, right? And you need to have that safe space. If you guys are going behind each other's backs and sharing things, or maybe unintentionally sharing things, you're not intentionally trying to hurt your partner, but you go and share some information, that's going to erode that trust. So create a safe space. And I believe this person here on Couples Learn called it the vault. It's like this vault where it's just you and them in this space, in this vault where you can share and you can be open and know that it's going to be safe with them. The information that you share is going to be safe with your partner. Secondly, I don't know why I've done that before, but this is like fifthly, maintain integrity, right? I've heard integrity is who you are when nobody's looking, and basically it's the moral compass here, and the honesty and the respect, right? It's the character, the good character. That's integrity. Maintain that, right? Maintain that in the relationship. And you can see if those things are not there, like good honest character, and if that's not there in a relationship, then trust is obviously going to erode. Like if you're not if you don't have integrity, and your partner can't ever trust your behavior or what you're going to do, what you're going to say, if you're going to be honest or not, if you're going to keep morals, keep good morals, it's going to be hard for them to trust you. So maintain that integrity. Um, Second to last year, be open and supportive in communication. So um, you've got to be willing to share in a relationship. This is where the intimacy comes in that we talked about a few weeks ago. You've got to be willing to share and allow yourself to be vulnerable, and also allow yourself to hear the vulnerabilities and the openness of your partner. And when that happens, be supportive, right? You can see how trust would be eroded if someone's trying to be open and you're not supportive in that, right? Or if you're not open, right? And they can never trust that you're going to open up to them and let them see inside. That's going to be hard to build that trust. So practice openness and support and communication, then practice generosity, right? Be generous with one another, right? Give to one another, and give of your time, give of yourself, give of gifts, give to each other. And that can build that trust, right? Because they can rely that you're going to give to them and they're gonna give to you, right? That can build up that trust. So here's some things that can build that trust up. But I just want to encourage you, something real simple. Show up for your partner, right? Like be there for your partner. Like in the big things and the small things, show up, be reliable, be honest. That's gonna show that trust more than anything. So trust, really, really important in a relationship. I'm going to move on now to commitment. And this is, again, there's some overlap here with trust, and we'll get to that in a minute. But look at what Oxford Languages is. This is what Oxford Languages says trust is, and this is just a definition, right? The state or quality of being dedicated to a cause, activity, or whatever else, right? The state of being dedicated. So, in terms of a relationship, commitment means being dedicated to your partner. Folks, if you're dedicated to something, you are going to spend a quality amount of time and effort on whatever that thing is. So if you're dedicated to sports, right, well, you're going to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort on watching sports, or on, if you're in sports, then you're going to be spending a lot of time and effort in training your body for whatever sport it is, right? If you're dedicated to family, right, you're going to spend a lot of time and effort to spend time with them, go to your kids practices or go to your kids games, spend some time with them, do things for them, so on and so forth. So if you're committed to your relationship, to your partner, you are going to be giving a lot of time and effort to that relationship. You're going to give a lot of time and effort to that partner. That's what commitment is, right? And this can be summed up really, really well in traditional wedding vows. So traditional wedding vows go something like this: I take you to be my wife or my husband, to have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish till death do us part. Commitment is, I'm in this through thick and thin. I am dedicated to this through thick and thin. I'm going to give my time and effort in this relationship from this day forward, from now until death do us part. Like whatever happens, I'm in this relationship, right? Unfortunately, commitment is lacking today, right? So many people enter into relationships and divorce quickly, or even divorce after several years. And that's a lack of commitment. Now, in some cases, I understand that there's like cheating, and sometimes a relationship just can't be maintained. But in many cases, it's just simply a lack of commitment, that people are just not in it for the long haul. And that's really what commitment is I'm going to be in this relationship. I'm going to be with you. I'm going to be there. Whatever happens, I'm dedicated. I'm in this. That's what we're talking about with commitment. And again, if that's not there, right? If there's no commitment to making things work, to going in this relationship, then how can you make the relationship work? It's going to be teetering and tottering all the time, because imagine if one person is not committed. It's like they can never trust that you're going to be there in the relationship. They can never see that you're working on the relationship, that you're going to be there, that you're going to be put time and effort into it. So commitment is really, really important, right? And if there's no commitment, then there's going to be a hard time making things work in a relationship. So um, this is a quote again from Zach Brittle on Gottman. We just talked about him a minute ago. Look at his quote about commitment. My friend and mentor, Lisa Lund, a certified Gottman therapist, once defined commitment saying, it's taking your partner with you wherever you go. I love that definition. It removes the notion that commitment is governed by some kind of obligation or legal contract. It's governed by a sense of partnership on the journey. It would be ridiculous to assume that commitment meant you were somehow physically inseparable. The metaphor of taking your partner wherever you go, however, is powerfully applicable. Imagine what it would be like to intentionally take your partner with you, if only subconsciously, wherever you went. Would you go to the grocery store or gym differently? Would you go to a bar differently? Would you relate to your friends differently? Would you relate to your coworkers differently? I thought that was a really great quote, right? It's taking your partner with you wherever you go. It's like, even when we're not together, my partner's with me, and I am in this with them wherever I go. Right? It's a partnership. It's this intertwined. It's kind of intimacy moving in here too. My life is intertwined with them, and we're partners. No matter where I'm at, no matter what I'm doing, I'm in this relationship with them. Nobody else and nothing else comes in between, right? And so I liked what he said there. Think about this: would you go to the anywhere differently if you took that idea of my partner's with me wherever I go? And in many cases, the answer would be yes for people. That yeah, I'd go to the gym differently if I took my partner with me, or if I'd go to the grocery store differently if I took my partner with me. Right. So that's what we mean here with commitment. It's this partnership. No matter where you're at on this long journey of life, we're going to be in it through thick and thin, no matter what. I also did want to say I kind of disagree with this a little bit with Zach Brittle. You know, with this where he says it's not governed by some kind of obligation or legal contract, right? I would say this, like in marriage, you do sign a legal contract in essence. Like you're married, there are documents that have to be filled out with the state, and in the sight of the state, you are a couple. You are legally bound to one another. And I think that's important, right? I'm not saying that your relationship has to get legalistic or it becomes an obligation like I have to do something. What I'm saying there is like there is an official sense of this relationship once you get married. There is an official like stamp that you are married. First of all, let me say this. I know not everybody believes in God, but I certainly do. In God's sight, when you get married, when you say I do, it's a binding agreement in God's sight. And then in the state, you are legally bound to that person. And I think that's important. I think it gives a legitimacy to the relationship, an official air to the relationship. Again, I'm not saying it's a okay, I have to do this for them, because the relationship should also be governed by that sense of partnership and companionship along the way. But I do think it's important to have that official contract, the official binding together by God and by the state. So that's commitment. So let's talk about a few things of how to show commitment. How can commitment be displayed in a relationship? How can we build that commitment? Well, number one, write a commitment statement. I thought this was really interesting. By the way, let me pull these captions off again. I had to do this multiple times today. I apologize. This comes from Sylvia Smith on marriage.com. And I'm just copying her several points on how to show commitment. I'm just kind of adding my own flavor on this. Write a commitment statement. I thought this was really neat, right? If you don't know where to start, maybe sit down together or do it separately and write out a statement about your commitment in the relationship. And this could look like a million different things. So I'm not gonna give an example here, but like it could look different for every couple. But sit down and really just write a statement together about your commitment to one another and to the relationship, and things that you're going to do, things that you want to accomplish together, like that's really really important. Something really simple: greet each other regularly. um, what ends up happening is in a relationship, you can kind of get away from um, greeting each other as you leave for work or as you come back from work or at night, cuddling together and things like that, greeting each other regularly. But doing those small things shows, okay, my partner's in this with me. Right, this is my partner. Remember that idea of partnership, companionship. Greeting each other warmly, regularly shows, okay, they're in this with me. They still have these loving feelings, and they're still in this partnership with me. So that's something simple you can do. Greet each other regularly. Talk about your future together, right? Again, commitment is okay, I'm in this with my partner for the long haul. And when you talk about your future together, it shows one another, okay, hey, we're going to work towards something, right? We're in this now, but we have a future together. And it kind of builds that road for, hey, like we said in our vows, till death do us part. Well, what are we going to do in the rest of our lives, right? And again, we're not promised another day, but we can still prepare. We can still look forward to things together. And so that can show a sense of we're in this together when we talk about our future, when we look forward to our future together. So that could be another important thing to talk about your future, your goals, your aspirations individually, but together. What are things you want to accomplish and do together? Next, spend quality time together. Spend quality time together. We've talked about this 1 billion times in this relationship psychoeducation group. And I cannot stress the importance of it to spend quality time together. Again, it shows you care. It shows that you're there, that you're committed in the relationship. When you spend time together, it shows, all right, like we just said, dedicated to dedication means you're going to spend time and effort. And that's it, right? Spending quality time together shows that you're in the relationship and that you want to be a part of this relationship, that you care genuinely about this relationship. Practice open communication. We've already talked about this today, but being open in a relationship is it'll show that you're committed, right? That, hey, I'm your partner and I'm going to just be open with you. I'm going to let everything out because we're in this together, right? And so if you're closed off, it's going to kind of show a lack of commitment. So open up, be open, show appreciation, right? Show that um, you appreciate your significant other, right? What they do in the relationship, how they work to make the relationship better, how they work to maintain the relationship. And so everybody wants to feel appreciated. Everybody wants to feel loved. And so we need to be showing that to one another. And that can build that sense of commitment when we appreciate each other, when we have that atmosphere of appreciation and work within the relationship and recognizing each other's work in the relationship. That can build that sense. Last slide here, getting done a little here today. Don't blame. We've already talked about this many times, but reiterated here. Don't be defensive. Don't bring up things from the past and blame your partner for them. That's going to show that lack of commitment. It shows commitment when you're willing to take responsibility and work on things yourself. So don't blame. Don't try to put things on someone else. Compromise, right? Compromise shows that you're willing to make things work for your significant other as well. Like when you compromise, you're showing your partner that it's not just my way, but I'm also willing to work on what you think is important. Right? I'm willing to meet you in the middle somewhere, and that shows that you're committed to the relationship because it's not, hey, I'm always going to insist on my way. I want to insist on us, on what we can do, what we can accomplish together. Create/continue family traditions. This one's really important too, because like this can show commitment because it's like you have your own things together and you are going to continue in them together, right? Like we have several family traditions and we do them regularly, or at least, on holidays and when special days come around. And that can be, things that show your commitment in the relationship because like, hey, we're building this partnership. We're building this relationship together. We have our things, so to speak, things that we do, and it's special to us. And so that can be another important thing. Practice spirituality together, right? A lot of things, like in the Bible, talk about commitment to Christ, and practicing that together, being committed to spirituality and religion together, can really build a commitment within a relationship. And like I say, like in a relationship or in the Bible, in particular, marriage is held in a very high regard and commitment is held in high regard. And if you read that together, practice that together, that can really build commitment within a relationship. Practice small acts of kindness. Just doing things here and there can show that you're committed in the relationship, right? Even the smallest of things can show your partner that you're in it with them for the long haul, that you're in it with them for good. So that's another really important thing, that these small acts of kindness doesn't have to be something big, but it can show your partner how much you care and how much you're invested in the relationship. Again, it's about being dedicated, right? And practicing these small acts of kindness shows your partner that you care about the relationship, that you care about them. And then finally, be intimate with one another. And we're talking about, yes, physically, but also emotionally and every other way. Be intimate with one another. Get deep with one another. Right. That's what we're talking about with intimacy is that openness and also diving deep with one another and in different areas of life, and that can show that you're committed because it's I'm going to show you all of me. You're gonna show me all of you, and we're going to grow this together, right? And so that can grow that commitment as well. So again, it's showing your partner that you're dedicated, that you're in this with them for the long haul. And so trust and commitment, there is some overlap, but I've heard that trust is more of a feeling, while commitment is more of an action. And there may be some truth to that. But it's again, I think the one of the most important things here, folks, to remember is that um, you need to show up for your partner, right? You need to be there for them. They need to be able to rely on you, and you need to be able to rely on them. And you need to be able to show them that you're in it with them for the long haul, and that you are going to work on the relationship through the thick and the thin. It's so very important. It is a pillar of relationships, trust and commitment. So I hope you learned something today. And I know that I felt kind of, to be honest, a little distracted today. And maybe it was that the technical difficulties at the beginning. I'm also near the end of my internship. And so I've got a lot on my mind with that. But I appreciate you bearing with me, and hope you learned something. But look forward to having you next week. I hope you